Hello, everyone. It is a beautiful day to dive into something new. I am happy you are here. Let us get ready. Imagine waking up and finding that the world does not understand you. Imagine having big ideas, deep thoughts, and a mind that never stops. But imagine also being alone. Very alone. Today, we listen to a story about a man like that, a man named Friedrich Nietzsche. His story is not easy, but it is real, and it is full of things we can all learn from. So take a slow breath, get comfortable, and let us begin this journey together. The year is 1844. The place is a small town in Germany called Röcken. It is a quiet place. There are green fields, old stone walls, and the sound of church bells in the morning. In this town, on the 15th of October, a boy is born. His name is Friedrich Wilhelm Nietzsche. His father is a pastor, a man of the church. His mother is a quiet, gentle woman. The house is calm. The life is simple. But inside this small boy, there is something unusual, something that is hard to see at first. Friedrich is different from other children. He does not play loudly. He does not run and shout. He sits. He listens. He thinks. Even as a very young child, he seems to carry something heavy inside him. When Friedrich is only 4 years old, something terrible happens. His father becomes very sick and dies. The family is left without its leader. Friedrich, his mother, and his younger sister Elizabeth move to a new city, to Naumburg. Everything changes. The quiet house in Röcken is gone, and a young boy must grow up without his father. You might wonder, what does a child do with that kind of pain? For Friedrich, the answer was simple. He turned to books. Friedrich was a very good student. This was clear from the beginning of his school years. He was serious, careful, and always curious. He loved music. He loved poetry. And he loved to ask questions that most people never thought about. When he was 14 years old, he received a great opportunity. He was accepted into a famous school called Schulpforta. This was not an ordinary school. Only the best students could go there. It was strict, disciplined, and full of serious learning. For Friedrich, it was both exciting and difficult. He worked very hard. He studied Latin, Greek, and history. He read the great writers of the past, and slowly, his mind began to grow in ways that surprised even his teachers. But there was something else happening too. Even in this school, surrounded by other young people, Friedrich felt alone. He had a few friends, but he did not feel truly understood. His ideas were already becoming unusual. He did not simply accept what he was taught. He questioned it. He pushed against it. He asked, "Why do we believe this? Is this really true?" This habit of questioning would follow him for the rest of his life. And one day, it would lead him to write some of the most powerful and difficult ideas in all of human history. But that day was still far away. For now, Friedrich was just a young man in a school uniform, sitting by a window, reading and thinking and wondering about the world. After school, Friedrich went to university, first to Bonn, then to Leipzig. He studied language and ancient texts. He was brilliant. His professors noticed him quickly. But the most important thing that happened at university was not in a classroom. One day, in a small bookshop in Leipzig, Friedrich picked up a book. The book was called The World as Will and Representation. It was written by a philosopher named Arthur Schopenhauer. Friedrich began to read, and he could not stop. Schopenhauer's ideas were dark and honest. He believed that life was mostly suffering, that the world was not kind, that humans were driven by forces they could not control. For most people, these ideas would feel frightening. But for Friedrich, they felt like truth. He felt, for the first time, that someone understood how he saw the world. He read the entire book in 2 weeks. He barely slept, he barely ate, he just read. This discovery was a turning point. It opened a door in Friedrich's mind that would never close again. Around the same time, Friedrich discovered the music of Richard Wagner. Wagner was a famous German composer. His music was big, dramatic, and full of emotion. Friedrich heard it and was deeply moved. He later met Wagner in person, and the two became close friends. For a short time, Friedrich felt less alone. He had found ideas that spoke to him, and a person who seemed to understand him. But as we will see, even these connections would not last. At the age of 24, something extraordinary happened. Friedrich Nietzsche was offered a job as a professor of classical languages at the University of Basel in Switzerland. This was almost unbelievable. He had not even finished his doctoral degree. But his professors believed in him so strongly that they recommended him anyway. The university gave him the position. He was one of the youngest professors in the history of that institution. On the outside, this looked like great success. A young man, respected, teaching at a fine university. But on the inside, Friedrich was struggling. His health was not good. He suffered from terrible headaches that could last for days. His eyes were very weak, and reading and writing caused him great pain. Despite all of this, he kept working, he kept thinking, he kept writing. In 1872, he published his first book called The Birth of Tragedy. In this book, he wrote about ancient Greek culture and about how art and music give meaning to a difficult life. He dedicated the book to his friend Richard Wagner. But the response was not kind. Many scholars criticized the book. They said it was not serious academic work. Friedrich was hurt. He had worked so hard, and now people were dismissing his ideas. But he did not stop. He continued teaching, he continued writing, and through the pain, physical and emotional, something stronger was beginning to form inside him. As the years passed, something began to change in Friedrich's relationship with Richard Wagner. At first, they had been close. Friedrich admired Wagner deeply. But slowly, he began to see things differently. He felt that Wagner's art was becoming too dramatic, too religious, too focused on easy emotions rather than real truth. He also disagreed with Wagner's growing nationalism and anti-Semitism. For Friedrich, these things were wrong. They went against his ideas of freedom and honest thinking. The friendship ended. It was painful. And with it, a chapter of Friedrich's life closed. His health was also becoming worse. In 1879, Friedrich resigned from his position at the university. He was only 34 years old. His head pain was so severe that he could barely function on some days. He left Basel and began a period of wandering. For the next 10 years, Friedrich Nietzsche lived without a fixed home. He moved between cities, staying in small rooms in Switzerland, Italy, and France. He was often alone. He had very little money. He lived simply and quietly. But during this time, something remarkable happened. Free from the pressures of university life, free from social obligations, Friedrich began to write with a new kind of power and freedom. This period of wandering, of isolation and pain, became the most creative time of his life. His greatest ideas were born not in comfort, but in loneliness. During his years of wandering, Friedrich Nietzsche wrote book after book. Each one was different. Each one pushed further into difficult and honest territory. In 1882, he published a book called The Gay Science. In this book, he wrote one of his most famous ideas. He wrote that God is dead. These 3 words shocked many people. But Friedrich was not celebrating. He was not being cruel. He was describing what he saw happening in modern society. He believed that people were losing their old beliefs, their old foundations, without finding new ones. And he felt that this was dangerous. He was warning the world. He asked, if we no longer believe in the old values, what do we believe in now? Who will guide us? These were not angry questions. They were honest and frightened questions. Around the same time, he began writing his most ambitious work. It was called Thus Spoke Zarathustra. In this book, he created a fictional wise man named Zarathustra who travels through the world sharing his wisdom. One of the most important ideas in this book was the concept of the Übermensch, which means the person who goes beyond ordinary limits, who creates their own values, who lives with courage and honesty. Friedrich was not writing about a perfect superhuman. He was writing about the possibility inside every person to grow, to question, and to become something greater. These ideas were not easy to understand, and very few people truly understood them at the time. By 1888, Friedrich Nietzsche was writing with enormous energy. In that 1 year alone, he wrote 5 books. He felt that his mind was working faster than ever before. He felt he was finally saying everything he had always wanted to say. But something was also going wrong. His letters during this time became strange. He wrote things that did not quite make sense. People who knew him began to worry. Then, in January 1889, in the city of Turin, Italy, something happened that ended Friedrich Nietzsche's working life forever. He collapsed in the street. His mind was gone. He was taken to an asylum. His mother came to take care of him. He lived for 11 more years after this collapse, but he never wrote again. He never had a clear conversation again. He sat. He sometimes played the piano. He sometimes smiled without knowing why. The brilliant, restless, questioning mind had gone quiet. What happened to Nietzsche exactly is still debated by doctors and historians today. Some say it was a disease. Some say it was the weight of a lifetime of physical pain and isolation. Whatever the cause, the man who had asked the deepest questions about life now lived in silence, and the world, which had not listened to him while he was well, was about to discover everything he had left behind. Friedrich Nietzsche died on the 25th of August, 1900. He was 55 years old. During his lifetime, he was not famous. Very few people read his books. Very few people understood what he was trying to say. But after his death, everything changed. His ideas spread across the world. Philosophers, artists, writers, and thinkers began to read him. They argued about his words. They were inspired by them. They were challenged by them. His ideas about values, about truth, about the courage to question everything became part of the foundation of modern thought. It is important to say something clearly here. Nietzsche's ideas were later misused by people with terrible intentions, including those connected to fascism and hatred. But this was not what Friedrich intended. He had written against nationalism. He had written against anti-Semitism. He had written in favor of individual freedom and honest thought. His words were taken out of their true meaning and used for purposes he would have despised. Today, scholars work hard to restore the true meaning of his writing. And when you read him carefully, what you find is not a voice of hatred. You find a voice of deep, painful honesty. A man who looked at the world and refused to look away. So what can we take from the story of Friedrich Nietzsche? What can this lonely, brilliant, suffering man teach us today? Perhaps the first lesson is about courage. It takes courage to think differently. It takes courage to question things that everyone around you accepts without thinking. Friedrich paid a very high price for that courage. He lost friendships. He lost his health. He lost his position. And in the end, he lost his mind. But he never stopped being honest. He never pretended to believe what he did not believe. And that honesty, that refusal to be comfortable when the truth was uncomfortable, is something we can admire and learn from. The second lesson is about loneliness. Friedrich was alone for most of his life, and yet his ideas connected him to millions of people after his death. Sometimes the deepest connections do not happen in the moment. Sometimes they happen slowly, quietly, across years and even centuries. And for you, as someone learning English through this story, there is a message here too. Learning a new language can sometimes feel lonely. It can feel difficult. It can feel like the ideas in your head are bigger than the words you have to express them. Friedrich Nietzsche felt exactly that way in his own life. But he kept going. He kept finding new ways to say what he felt. And so can you. This journey, your journey of discovery through language and story, is one of the most beautiful things you can do for yourself. If this story moved you, if it made you think, please leave a comment below. Tell us what stayed with you. Tell us what question you are still carrying. And come back, because the next story is already waiting for you.